She called me white trash in a handyman's shirt while her hired muscle swung a crowbar through my front window. I stood on the porch, phone steady, recording every splinter. She grinned like the fight was already over. She had cash, attorneys, and half the subdivision ready to swear I was the problem. I had permits, blueprints, and 20 years of Navy damage control telling me one thing. Proof outlasts vandalism. What happened next turned a quiet lake lot into a statewide precedent and cost her everything she thought she owned. 3 years earlier, I'd buried my wife, Ellen, after a teenager blew a stop sign. The city apartment felt like a shrine to what we'd lost, so I loaded my truck and drove to the 2.4 acres my dad left me outside Pine Hollow, California. The land was overgrown, honest, and silent. I cleared it by hand, slept in a tent, and filed every county form twice. Septic approval, setback diagrams, building permits, all stamped and copied. Old habit. When the ship is taking water, you log the breach before you patch it. I built the cabin one nail at a time. Each board was a small victory over grief. I even set posts for the garden Ellen always wanted: tomatoes, basil, rosemary, though I hadn't planted a seed yet. The place gave me rhythm. Coffee at dawn, hammer until dusk, lake breeze at night. Then came the letter from the Pine Hollow Owners Association. 30 days to remove the unpermitted eyesore or face enforcement. Signed, Margaret Whitmore, President. I knew the property line by heart. My parcel sat 200 feet beyond the HOA's legal reach. I answered with a polite note and copies of the survey. Margaret replied with silence, then action. Day 27, 6:15 a.m. Diesel engines growled up the gravel. 2 pickups, 1 excavator, for men in Whitmore construction shirts. The foreman, Kyle, waved a sheet titled Executive Removal Order. I read it aloud for the camera. No court seal, no judge, just Margaret's looping signature. I dialed 911, hit live stream, and planted myself in the doorway. Kyle shoved me, not hard enough to knock me down, but enough to count as assault. A crowbar took out the picture window. Glass rained across the pine floor I'd sanded myself. Sirens arrived before the second pane shattered. Deputy Harlan Reed took one look at my permits, ran the plat through county records, and ordered the crew off my land. He left me an incident number and a quiet warning: Margaret plays for keeps. An hour later, my phone lit up. Margaret had posted on the Pine Hollow Facebook group, "Armed squatter assaults maintenance crew, photographed near elementary bus stop. Keep your kids inside." The thread exploded. Neighbors I'd never met called me predator, drifter, threat. By noon, the hardware store clerk rang me up without meeting my eyes. A lifted Ford screamed past the parking lot, "Move out, freak." I sat in the dark cabin, broken glass crunching under my boots, and remembered Ellen's voice. "You don't have to carry the load alone." I emailed Laura Donovan, a JAG buddy turned civilian attorney. She called at dawn. "I'm in, no fee. Bullies and blazers are my specialty." Laura mapped the counterattack like a fire suppression plan. Public records request, fresh survey, digital forensics, witness statements. We discovered the HOA had tried to annex my road in 2023, but fell 33% short of the required supermajority. The expansion was void on its face. Margaret knew it. Internal emails proved it. Neighbor Tom's security cam caught her silver SUV idling across the road at 5:45 a.m., the morning of the break-in. She watched her own crew commit felony vandalism, then raced home to type predator alert. The forensics expert traced every anonymous hate comment to her kitchen Wi-Fi. Deputy Reed testified he'd answered 2 prior calls against the same HOA, same playbook: threaten, smear, force a sale. The Garcia family, run out over blue exterior paint, flew in from Arizona to tell the judge how their kids were bullied until they broke. Pattern evidence. We sued Margaret personally, the HOA as an entity, Whitmore Construction, and Kyle for trespass. 50 grand actual damages, $500,000 punitive, plus a permanent injunction. Margaret's attorney moved to dismiss. The hearing packed Department 12. Laura projected the survey, the failed vote, the shove, the shattered glass. She played Tom's footage showing Margaret's taillights glowing like brake lights on a getaway car. On cross, Margaret snapped, "He cheapens our entrance corridor. He isn't our caliber of resident." The courtroom gasped. Judge Evelyn Harper denied the motion in an 18-page order that quoted class bias and weaponized governance. Margaret's husband, Vernon, finally drew the line. Legal fees had eaten 80 grand. The company's trucks carried protest signs now. He walked into the board meeting and laid down an ultimatum: settle or I'm gone. The new board, half resigned in disgust, voted to override her. $250,000 wired to my account. Full-page apology in the Pine Hollow Gazette. Margaret banned for life from any California HOA office. She delivered the papers herself, eyes on the gravel, voice mute. I signed, handed back the pen, and said, I only wanted the garden you tried to bury. She drove away without an answer. The HOA hired professional management, rewrote bylaws, installed an appeals board. 12 more families came forward. Margaret repaid $45,000 in embezzled dues through grocery store wages. The cabin got new windows, a wraparound deck, and a workshop where veterans now planed boards on Saturday mornings. I seeded Ellen's garden. Tomatoes ripened the week the governor signed Assembly Bill 572, the Harper Act, mandating jurisdiction checks and penalties for malicious enforcement. Laura's pro bono network has saved 23 homes since. The Garcias moved back, threw a barbecue on my lawn, kids chasing fireflies while the adults drank lemonade, and swapped war stories about paint swatches. I still wake to pine and coffee. The difference is laughter drifting from the shop, hammers keeping time, and a hand-carved sign by the path, built with grief, defended with truth. All veterans welcome. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the garden you plant after the storm passes. What about you? Ever watched a neighborhood tyrant hide behind rules? Ever stood your ground when the crowd was wrong? Drop your story below, take a side, defend it. The comment section is your porch.